It was 1 year since Lucy and I adopted Vicky, and the three of us visited Dallas to attend a Unitarian Universalist conference and see Debbie, Carrie and their new baby Richard. The four of us adults threw dice to see who would stay behind at Debbie and Carrie's house to care for Richard, and I got the job. Vicky volunteered to help me. "Oh, you are so sweet.
You seem so good with babies. How many more children do you want, Mother Jessica?"
"I think I have enough already, Vicky. And I am a grandmother to this one, so I am happy now."
"I find myself wishing I could have a baby of my own right now."
"Vicky, why do you feel that way? You are only 13, far from being an adult. Why not just enjoy the rest of your childhood?"
"I guess you don't understand how empty my heart feels. You and Mother Lucy have each other. Debbie and Carrie have each other and their baby. But I have no one."
"Oh, Vicky, I am so sorry. I guess it is easy to forget how terrible your life was before you came to us. But Lucy and I have tried to love you as much as anyone could."
"Yes, and I appreciate every bit of what you do for me. But I want either a baby or a boyfriend. Maybe both."
"Let me put Richard to bed and we can go outside. The fresh air may do us some good." "Vicky, your feelings are totally natural, and maybe if you were living in the days of cavemen, you would indeed be ready to be a mother now. But in this modern society, not so much. Lucy and I had Carrie because we were both ready to be mothers. Likewise, Carrie and Debbie had Richard because they were ready to be mothers. As adults, we had our own homes and our own jobs to support a child. You don't. But even now you can still be an aunt to Richard and a cousin to Helen in Boston. That should be enough. When you get older and finally do have a baby, you and that child will be much happier because you waited."
"And what about finding a boyfriend? Could that be possible for me now? I've asked out several boys my age in our town, but none of them are interested. And the ones that do want me, they are much older and remind me of the perverts who, you know."
"Right. So let's not dwell on that.
So what are we looking up?"
I just found a database of HIV-positive people in the United States. You are included on that list. And so is this 15-year-old boy named Paul Jenkins, who lives in a town about 50 miles from ours."
"Paul Jenkins. That name does sound familiar."
"That's because that is also the last name of your English teacher in your school. It could be a coincidence, but I'd better make a phone call. Carla, do you know a 15-year-old boy named Paul Jenkins?" "Yes, I do. He is my nephew. He lives in another town with his grandparents." "Why?" "I just found him listed on an online database of HIV-positive people, the same one my adopted daughter Vicky is on. I think it would be beneficial for her to make friends with another young person like her." "Well, you should know he's had a pretty rough life. His mother, my little sister, got pregnant with him when she was a teen, and she also got HIV from the unprotected sex, which she passed on to Paul. A few years after Paul was born, my sister died of full-blown AIDS. She was also a drug addict and spent her money on drugs instead of taking the proper treatments to stay healthy. My parents took Paul in and have been taking good care of him ever since. One of the reasons I was a hardcore homophobe a few years ago was because of what happened to Paul and my sister. Back in the 1980s, AIDS was mainly among gay men in the United States, and so the gay community was blamed for bringing the disease here. Some even saw AIDS as a punishment from God aimed at wiping out gays. That was the common Christian view at the time. Now that I have worked my way out of that bigoted way of thinking, I can feel compassion for those who have suffered and died of that disease. I scorn my sister for getting pregnant out of wedlock, for getting AIDS, and for doing drugs. I should have been more helpful to her. Well, that's the past. Maybe we can do something for Paul and Vicky now. How about we bring them together?
Thanks for doing this. I hope Paul turns out to be a nice guy.
Me too. Carla has already gone over there to meet with him. She also gave us directions to a cafe in Paulstown, so we will go there and wait for him.
So what time are they coming over?
Carla said 1 p.m., so we are on time.
And there they are.
Hey, you two. And this is Paul.
Hello.
I really hope this works out for Vicky. She has had a hard life and needs someone to love her who will treat her right. I read what you sent me about her. You do realize that abused children tend to be abusers themselves to the next generation. Aren't you worried about that happening with Vicky? No, that would only be the case if the child grew up thinking what was done to them was right and appropriate. Vicky knows what her birth mother did to her was wrong and horrible.
I don't really know what to say. I've always been awkward around girls.
Well, we can have a meal together and then go on from there. But I already think you are quite handsome. Are you blushing? I didn't mean to embarrass you.
It's okay, one step at a time, right? And with a girl as pretty as you, this seems easy. I'm glad my aunt convinced me to meet you.
And it looks like our work is done. Maybe next weekend, you can bring Paul to our house?